Oh, hi, Peterson. Come on in. We'll show you our secret warehouse, our version of the vault. Come on. Welcome back to the Peterson YouTube channel. My name is Tom Plusinski from BMW Group Classic, and we're here in BMW's version of the vault, our secret warehouse. Undisclosed location, but it's where we keep the cars that are not on display in various exhibits around the country, like the one that's happening at the Peterson Museum. So you're in a working warehouse, so you'll see things around, vacuum cleaners and things. That's normal here. This is really a behind the scenes. Normally people are not allowed in here, but because you're the Peterson Museum, we'll let you in. So let's have a look at a few of the cars. We'll do a quick walk through here. Overall, I'll just say that the collection does two things. One is it chronicles the history of the plant here in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and the vehicles that were assembled there, as well as showing the history of BMW in North America. And so BMW North America was started in 1975, so predominantly we have vehicles that are post 1975. But let's have a close look at some of the cars here. The plant here in Spartanburg was the assembly plant for all of the Z3s. So we have a number of Z3s. You may just see that there's too many Z3s in the collection, but each car has something specific that's special about it. Of course, you have to have an M Roadster. It's a very nice, well-preserved M Roadster, low mileage. Then we have a couple of very early cars. This is an early ECE car, so a European version of the Z3. It's a 1.8 liter. Two-valve engine in this particular car. We don't get to use it very much in North America because it's not something that we sold here. Next one is in a very early pre-series, so before it was on sale to the public. It was a show car for auto shows in the period. So it has virtually no miles on it. When you work at a large assembly plant, most cars have to be within a certain spec range, so specific colors and interiors and so on. But every now and then the Spartanburg plant was able to do something quite special. And this was a car that was commissioned by then head of research and engineering, Wolfgang Reitzle. He wanted a British racing green car with special BBS wheels and a tan top, and that was not something that was available from the factory at the time. So the car was built. I don't think he ever drove it or actually even saw it. I think it's been in the collection here ever since, but he may have seen it when he came over to the plant at one point. But it's been in the collection since new, and it has less than 1,000 miles on it at this point. As we move back, we'll see a couple of other cars you may recognize. Here's a really nice Laguna Seca blue BMW M Coupe, the clown shoe, and this is a late one, very nice version. We showed you a different one over at the Zentrum that was the last one assembled. This one was just built during the normal production period. And then finally down this row, we have something that's really quite special. This is an Alpina Roadster S, and this particular car was a pre-production car that Alpina did to engineer the model. And once it was completed, they put production level parts on the car and donated it back to us. So it's been in the collection ever since. The car was never sold in North America. They're very rare in general, and to have one in North America, this we believe is the only one that's ever been here. So neat car. And we saw progression from Z3, now Z4. So every Z4, every Z3 coupe and convertible were assembled here in Spartanburg. If we go down the second row, we'll see some other interesting cars, and we're going to jump around a little bit. A very nice, and it's actually the last Z4M Coupe assembled, is that black one there. This vehicle is an X5M, and the reason it was put in the collection is it's the 5 millionth vehicle built by the plant in Spartanburg. So 5M, 5 million is right in the name, so it had to be an X5M, and it's painted in Toronto red, which is not a standard color for X5. And then right behind it, roughly 2 years later, is an X6M, which you can guess is the 6 millionth vehicle assembled by the plant. And this car is painted in Java green, also a special color. So this also shows this plant can assemble cars in individual colors, which wasn't the case for many years, but now individual colors have been opened up for this plant. And it's a very difficult process to do because customer can choose from 150, 200 colors, pay a little more and get something special. Can't paint every color here, but we can do a wide variety. So this is a good example of that. It's a little bit loud, but it's perfect for what it is. Then we have a few motorcycles here. We have an R90S, which is one of the iconic BMW motorcycles, and beside it is a drag race bike that was used competitively and then donated to the museum. And then we have the Z4 version that was not assembled at the plant. So when this Z4 went to production, the plant was at capacity with X5 or X products, so production of these was moved to Germany, and we kept one anyways just so we had the entire lineage of the Z3 and Z4. If we go over, next one over here, let's have a look. This is just a 318 four-door, but it's a really important car. It is chassis number 0001. It was the first production car built by the plant, and it was donated to the state of South Carolina. They had it on display at the Department of Commerce for many years, and then 2 years ago it was given back to us, and now it's part of our collection. A couple of interesting things that are unique on it. The floor mat on the driver's side has the outline of the state, which is neat for this. As we move forward here, we have another Z3M Coupe. This is with the earlier engine, the US engine, versus the European style 4-valve engine later on. This car, it's a work in progress. When we introduced diesels to the US for a short period of time, we had the 325 diesel, and one of the ideas was to go race in the 24 hours of Thunderbolt in order to show the mileage benefits of diesel engines. This car was a problem. It did have severe problems during the race, and it has big electrical issues post-race. So we've been playing around with it. We use it for some promotions. We repaint it. We do have a car the sister car to this that is restored to its Thunderhill livery, and it came third. So it also had some issues during the race, which is too bad. We weren't able to really show the true benefits of the diesel engine, but it should have had a range of about 800 miles with the fuel cell, and because of some rushing in our engineering, we couldn't do that. We had to refill every time the tank was at half full, unfortunately, but it still did well. And then this is probably the oldest car we have. It's a 1959 503 coupe designed by Bertone for BMW, and it's on loan from BMW Group Classic in Munich. It's not really an important car for the US market, but it's a very interesting car for BMW. It's a V8, aluminum V8 power, and a very pretty car. We've had it here for many years. A very nice example of a 1987 325 IS. It's a car we purchased from the market many years ago. I should explain that many of the cars that we have here are cars that we've just kept. So as they're new, we just move them into the collection. There are a few cars that we've had to purchase over the years because no one thought to keep one when they were new. So this is one of the cars that we purchased. There's about 50,000 miles on it, but it's a really nice example of a 325 IS with the M20 engine. If we look on the other side here, we can look at here, we have a Mini E. This was the first public test or customer test of electric vehicle technology. This was at the Peterson Museum for about a year, and there were 500 of these made. They were used to test infrastructure, technologies in the car, and how customers interacted with electric cars. And very, very positive outcome for us, and then we'll see some of the cars that it morphed into later on. Most of them were recycled, but this one we were able to keep in the collection as an example in the US. A few more bikes along the way, including the oldest bike in the collection. This one is, 1940s and it's an R40, sorry, 1930s, and it's an R47 it's called. And then we come up to a car with some colors on it. So this is a E36 four-door 328 that was assembled here at the plant, and it was used for the torch relay in 1996 when BMW was the sponsor of the Olympics in Atlanta. So every stop along the way, the torch runners would get to sign it, and unfortunately some of them have faded over time, but we've kept this car as part of our sponsorship of the Olympics in the day. On the other side here we have one of the very first GTP cars, well, actually second GTP car for BMW, and one of the first of the modern ones. This car raced in 1986, and its biggest claim to fame was winning the 6 Hours of the Glen with Davy Jones and John Andretti when they were just kids. And they brought it home and won the race, and that was its only victory. The program was ended at the end of '86, and we've had the car in the collection ever since. The motorcycle here it's strategic that it's beside the torch relay car. This was one of the motorbikes that was used to make the torch relay happen. So we had motor officers on these bikes, and they would split traffic so the runners could go through. It's a GS model, 1150 GS, and great bike. And now we see a couple of minis. We have a Mini GP first gen and a Mini GP third gen. Fortunately, we didn't keep a second gen, so we have good examples here of these two cars. They're very low mileage, kept from new by the Mini Group, and they're in the permanent collection here. And then we have the first GTP assembled. This was assembled in 1981. It's a March chassis, and it was raced by David Hobbs, who many of you may know or be familiar with, and Mark Sewer, who was an F1 driver. And it was brutally fast because it was a 2-liter version of the Formula One engine at the time, so it could have upwards of 800, 900 horsepower with given tune, but it was very fragile and not exactly great in endurance racing. So back in this day, this was called an M1C. For the sprint races, we would sometimes race this. In the long races, we would race a proper M1 race car. And then we have this car here. It's an E34 M5 that was raced in the Bridgestone Series in 91, 92, driven by David Donahue. And this car was a big 4-door sedan up against things like Porsches and Lotuses and Mazda RX-7s and all sorts of really sporty cars. And here's this big sedan that's able to compete with them. And in fact, he won the championship with the car. So if you run into David Donahue, mention you saw this on Peterson's YouTube, you'll see his eyes light up. The car is a bear. It's like, I've said, it's like a junkyard dog. It hates everyone except David. It just rolls over and shows its belly when David gets in the car. It starts up, it runs perfectly. Any of the others of us try starting it or moving it or doing anything, it grumbles and tries to bite you. So it's David's baby. This is an M Coupe that was produced to go race at the Nordschleife Nürburgring 24, driven by a few names that may be recognizable. Roberto Ravaglia was a big driver for BMW over the years, and I believe Mr. Mueller was the gentleman who did a lot of the lap times at the Nürburgring for comparison on street cars. But this race at the Nordschleife, I'm not sure how it finished. It wasn't particularly competitive, but after it was done, it came back to the collection here. And then here's another early car in the collection. This also predates BMW North America. So this is a 1973 3.0 CSL. injected version versus the early carbureted versions. It's a non-Batmobile, so it doesn't have the spoiler on the front or the wing on the back, and it's the more stealth version of the CSL. But great car, drives fantastically, and it's really great that we have this in the collection. It's on permanent loan from BMW Group Classic Munich. We have one of each generation of M5. The M5 is a really important car for BMW in North America. Our first M5 is with the Peterson right now for a little while longer, and we're looking forward to it coming back to us because it's one we really love to drive. But down this line we have one of each. So we have an E34 here. This car is a little bit interesting because it was put in the Classic Collection in Munich as a US spec car, and it's mostly US spec. It's missing one thing to make it proper US spec, which is the high mount brake light in the car, but it is chassis number 003. So it was essentially a pre-production vehicle and they didn't know what to do with it, so it was in the collection. We brought it over here several years ago with like 20 miles on it, and right now I think it has about 500 miles on it. So it's a really good example of the E34 I should say. There aren't many E34 M5s, and this was the last of the hand-built M5s. And so we're really quite happy to have that one. This one is, they're a bit out of order, but this is an E60 M5. This one's a manual transmission car. Unfortunately, my predecessors didn't think to keep one of these when they were new, so we had to go out in the open market to find one. Many of them have been modified over the years. It's a car that really lends itself to mods and performance improvements, but we really wanted one that was dead bone stock, and we finally found one. It took us about 2 years, and the other thing we were looking for was a manual transmission version, which was only available in the US market. So if we were having one in the collection, it had to be manual. And we finally found this one. It's a beautiful example, fantastic to drive, and it's got that V10 engine of 500 horsepower. There's nothing like it. It's a really neat car. And then this is probably the most beloved of the M5 models, the E39 M5, powered by the S62 V8, 400 horsepower. It truly is a benchmark car, and we know many of our competitors use E39 M5s as their benchmark for chassis dynamics and power and just overall feel. It's, to this day, it feels fantastic and modern. The only thing that gives up its age are the infotainment things on the center console. This one has a nav system which is archaic. But other than that, the car is fantastic. It drives fantastically, and that engine is really sweet. As we move a little bit back here, we've got a couple of race cars we can cover. That is a Formula 2. It was driven by Christian Danner. The Formula 2 engine in this car is based on the 2002 block that has a 4-valve head on it, and they could develop somewhere in the range of high 200s to 300 horsepower with that setup. That engine also morphed into the F1 engine that won us the championship in 1983, and then at that point it was turbocharged, and it could do, well, about 800 horsepower for race tune, and then in qualifying trim it could do upwards of 1200 horsepower for a lap or two until it blew up. But it was a very, very good time for engine development work. This is an E92 M3 GT. There's one in the museum at the moment, and this is a show car, so it's a non-running car. The one you have at the Peterson at the moment is the car. It's the one that won Sebring twice and won the championship. It won everything. So you have the right car. We have the second best here. And then if we look at this one, you may never have seen this one before. It's a one of one, and it was a concept for turning the Z3 Coupe into a race car. This is really not a true car. It's a show car or a design study, but it morphed into the car that raced at the Nürburgring later on. The interesting thing about it, I just have to show you one thing, is the doors. You wonder how the door opens? Well, not much of the door opens. So you adjust the top part and then you climb over the tub to get in. Fun little archival thing, but not really important to the history of the car, really. And then if we head back to this row, In the Zentrum we have a Z8 Roadster. This is an Alpina Roadster. Alpina V8 Roadster is the proper name for it. There were 555 of these built. This is car number 500. We've owned it since new. And the reason there are two versions of the Z8 is the US market initially thought that the Z8 could have a bigger market impact if there was an automatic transmission available. It was initially only available with the manual transmission and the engine from the M5, the S62. Alpina had been working on a different engine and automatic transmission setup for the car, and so that finally got green-lit and came to production, and this is one of them. Interestingly, the market for the Z8 had almost finished by the time these arrived in market, so they weren't the best-selling cars at the time, but now the Z8 version is worth more than the Z8, than the manual version. So it shows you history changes how things are perceived. But a wonderful car. I should also mention that the Z8 was a car that allowed BMW to pioneer small production aluminum extrusion and aluminum extrusion subframes and chassis development. It was important for us to learn on a car, and this was the one, in order to be able to do the Rolls-Royce Phantom that came a few years later. So this was the pioneering work for, believe it or not, the chassis of the Phantom. And now last car in this row, we're starting to get into M3s. We have one of each generation of M3. We have one of each generation of M3 race car as well. So this is a E46 M3. This was another car that we had to purchase from a customer because we hadn't kept one in the collection. These are really well-loved, wonderful car, inline six, and it was the car that really was the breakout for BMW M in the US. About 45,000 of these were sold in the US, so it was really a big step up. Big volume for M started with the E36 M3, which we can walk back to here. And we have a very special E36 M3. It's hard to believe now, but the E30 M3 was not a huge sales success. It was a fantastic race car, but it was difficult to sell. It was very expensive, and it wasn't greatly suitable as a everyday car, as a daily driver. The engine was buzzy. You had to rev it a lot. If you had to go up a hill, you had to drop 2 gears. So it was difficult to live with on a day-to-day basis. Fantastic on track, though. And then when BMW Motorsport was talking about the next generation of M3, they were not sure whether the US wanted the car, and the US was not sure they wanted the car because the E30 had been lackluster sales-wise. Eventually, an agreement was made, and the E36 M3 was launched with a 2-door, a 4-door, and a convertible in the US market with an engine that was not a pure M3 engine. It didn't have one valve, one trumpet per cylinder, didn't have one throttle per cylinder. This was more of a BMW AG engine that was tuned. It had about the same torque but not the same horsepower, but it was wildly successful. So the E36 M3 had enough volume that it made the US market the biggest M market in the world. And that has remained since then. So a very important car for BMW M in America. This particular one is an M3 lightweight, and it's one of the very first cars built. It is very low mileage. It's been in the collection since new. And the lightweight was designed to go racing. So you paid more for less in order to be able to have all the good stuff to go showroom stock racing, which was really big at the time. Unfortunately, delays in production, the rules had changed in showroom stock, and the cars were not big sellers when they came out. 126 were built. They were, some of the dealers would say they were sale-proof at the time, but now they're the most valuable of the E36 M3s. So you never know. History has a way of fixing wrongs. So we're really lucky to have this car. It was used for demonstrations, and it's been with us ever since. And then if we continue with the M3s, let's go down this row here. Here we have M4 GTS. This was done in 2016. This was our press car. So if you've seen a press report or press videos on the GTS, it was likely this car. If it was done in North America, it was this car. It should have been probably recycled because it is pre-series, but we've managed to keep it in the fleet, and it has a home for its life here. Behind me is an E92 M3 Lime Rock edition. There is a Lime Rock edition in the museum at the moment, but that is car 000, so it predates the Lime Rock. It was the proof of concept for the Lime Rock. It's actually not painted in fire orange. It's got fire orange flex paint on top of the Valencia orange paint. So that's another story. You have to go to the museum to read about that. But this one is a proper 1 of 200 Lime Rock edition with about 4,000 miles on it, so a very low mileage car. We mentioned the Mini E early on, and the second step in our road to electrification was the Active E. So it was a 1 series using the batteries and the motor technology from the i3, but predates the i3, and these were given to 500 customers around the world, many of which were in the US, and they would put test miles on it and tell us about it. So one of the agreements was we were getting data from all these customers along the way. And we had one customer in the US that drove the most of anyone in the world. He was completely into it, had a Mini E, an Active E, and then went into the production i3. And this is an i3S, so it's one of the very last versions of it. You can tell by the flared fenders on it, the more power, and a larger battery pack. Neat car, carbon fiber structure, safety cell, and then an aluminum platform for suspension and brakes and engine and so on. Really moved technology forward a long way. It was kind of a dead end, but in some respects, but it was important to the history of the brand. That's part 1 of the warehouse. We have a lot of cars to cover, and I like to talk about all of them. So let's split this into 2. We'll see you on the next one.